beginning. The stars were silent witnesses to the collapse of her world. Elora stood atop the broken ridge overlooking the ruins of Cinderel, her homeworld. Once a jewel of the Valkyrie system, its floating towers and glowing lakes were now swallowed by ash and twisted metal. The sky, once painted with twin suns, was stained with smoke. The war had ended and they had lost. Her violet skin was streaked with soot and dried blood. She no longer wept. There were no tears left in her. Her people, the Valkyrie, once proud scholars and peacekeepers, had been decimated by the Coalition's relentless expansion. The Coalition called it liberation. Elora called it extinction. She had fought. Trained as a bladesinger in the Royal Guard, she had struck down enemy mechs with plasma ribbons and outmaneuvered troops twice her size. But in the end, she was just one of too few against too many. Now she was a fugitive, the last known survivor of the Valkyrie royal court. A rumble echoed in the distance. Coalition scavenger drones. They scoured the battlefield daily, collecting tech and disposing of any remaining resistance. Elora had avoided them for weeks, hiding in the labyrinthine caves beneath the city. But she was tired. Her wounds festered, her power reserves were gone, and even her ceremonial blade had snapped. She sat beneath the fractured wing of a downed transport and let herself fall backward onto the cracked stone. This would be her resting place. She would die alone as her people had. Or so she believed. Middle. Whoa, don't shoot. I'm not with the drones. Elora's eyes snapped open. A shadow leaned over her, outlined against the gray sky. She reached for a weapon she no longer had and tried to push herself up, but her arms failed her. Easy. I'm not here to hurt you. The figure lowered himself to a crouch. Human. Will. Shaggy brown hair, worn tactical gear, eyes soft with concern. He held out a water pouch. My name's Mason. Engineer, salvager, former coalition, defector. Elora's mind reeled. A human. Here. Helping her. She tried to speak, but all that came out was a raspy croak. Here, he said gently, pressing the water to her lips. Cool, clean liquid flowed down her throat. Her body trembled from the shock. I saw your ship crash 3 weeks ago, Mason said. I've been tracking movement, trying to avoid patrols. Then I picked up a weak energy signature near the ruins. And here you are. Elora narrowed her eyes. Why help me, she managed. Because you're not a threat, Mason replied. And because I've seen what the Coalition does to people like you. I didn't sign up to be a butcher. She turned her face away. Too late. Mason sighed and stood. Well, whether you want it or not, I'm not leaving you here. Give me a minute. I've got a hover sled nearby. I'll get you out of this hellhole. She wanted to protest. She wanted to die. But her body betrayed her will. Within an hour they were moving. The sled hummed beneath them, kicking up ash as it weaved through debris. Mason drove carefully, glancing back every so often to check on her. They arrived at a bunker hidden beneath the roots of a collapsed comms tower. The inside was shockingly warm, lit by salvaged solar panels and insulated walls. Mason had even grown a small garden in recycled hydropods. You can rest here, he said, helping her onto a makeshift cot. Safe for now. And she did. For days. Elora slowly regained her strength. Mason treated her wounds with steady hands and quiet words. He told her stories about Earth, about his rebellion, about the things he regretted. He never asked her to talk, but she listened. Sometimes she would wake from nightmares, gasping and reaching for lost weapons. And always Mason was nearby, saying nothing, just present. When her voice returned, they spoke. tentatively at first, then with cautious ease. "You know you could be killed for helping me," she said once. "I already died the day I followed orders I didn't believe in," he replied. That silenced her. As weeks passed, Elora helped more. Repaired sensors, sorted supplies. The motion brought strength, and strength brought memories. Her people's songs returned in fragments. She sang them under her breath, and Mason would pause, listening without interrupting. She even found an old Valkyrie data crystal in her satchel, a repository of knowledge, culture, and memory. Her fingers trembled as she plugged it into Mason's terminal. "There's still a piece of us left," she whispered. Mason smiled. "Then let's make sure it survives." Ending. But peace never lasts. A coalition tracking beacon activated deep beneath the ruins. Old tech rebooted by accident, maybe. Within hours, an assault craft descended from orbit. Mason's sensors lit up with alerts. "They found us," he said grimly. "A patrol squad. Heavily armed." Elora stood, already pulling on her armor. "You're in no shape to fight," Mason warned. "I am Valkyrie," she said quietly. "I will not run from death again." Mason shook his head and picked up his rifle. "Then we fight together." The battle was brutal. Coalition troops stormed the bunker entrance. Elora danced through the narrow hall, her reconstructed blade slicing through exosuits. Mason fired with precision, disabling their drones and suppressing reinforcements. But they were outnumbered. A plasma grenade tore through the sidewall, pinning Mason under debris. Elora screamed and charged, cutting through 2 soldiers before getting blasted back against the terminal. Pain rippled through her body. A commander approached, weapon raised. "Valkyrie scum," he sneered. "You should have died with the rest." Elora looked up at him and smiled. Behind the commander, Mason rose, bloodied but alive, holding the detonator they'd wired into the old beacon. He pressed it. A shockwave of EMP energy surged outwards, disabling weapons, armor, and drones. The coalition squad collapsed, stunned and confused. Elora surged forward and delivered the final blow. Later they sat in the ruins of the bunker, exhausted but alive. "We can't stay here," Mason said. "They'll send more." Elora looked at the data crystal, still intact. "Then we go somewhere they can't follow." Mason raised a brow. "You got a plan?" She nodded. "I know a hidden Valkyrie archive on Kairos 7. Buried deep. If we can reach it, my people's history might survive. Maybe even rebuild. You're not giving up anymore." "No," she said, gripping his hand. "You changed that." They packed what they could, loaded the hover sled, looked once more at the ashes behind them. Then they rode into the horizon, a fugitive human and the last Valkyrie warrior. Together, they carried the spark of a fallen world toward something new. Beginning. The stars were silent witnesses to the collapse of her world. Elora stood atop the broken ridge overlooking the ruins of Sindral, her homeworld. Once a jewel of the Valkyrie system, its floating towers and glowing lakes were now swallowed by ash and twisted metal. The sky, once painted with twin suns, was stained with smoke. The war had ended and they had lost. Her violet skin was streaked with soot and dried blood. She no longer wept. There were no tears left in her. Her people, the Valkyrie, once proud scholars and peacekeepers, had been decimated by the coalition's relentless expansion. The coalition called it liberation. Elora called it extinction. She had fought. Trained as a blade singer in the Royal Guard, she had struck down enemy mechs with plasma ribbons and outmaneuvered troops twice her size.